The mists of sable cliffs rose, seek the jagged teeth of a slumbering beast, their rocky surfaces shrouded in an ethereal fog that twisted and turned like whispering spirits. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the precipice, her slender figure draped in flowing dark robes that billowed softly in the cool breeze. The air was thick with a palpable tension, each gust carrying the echoes of a haunted past. Memories swirling around her like the fog itself. With long, wavy silver hair catching the faintest glimmers of light, she felt both ethereal and tethered, the weight of her history anchoring her to the misty edge. As she clutched her head, the whispers taunted her, fleeting shadows of rejection and lost opportunities dancing just beyond her reach, sending chills down her spine. Ysolde took a trembling breath, her violet eyes, laced with flecks of gold, scanning the swirling mists for Lawless. The jagged cliffs felt alive, their presence menacing and inviting, as if they were aware of her turmoil. "You can't hide from this, Ysolde," she murmured to herself, the words barely slicing through the oppressive silence. A distant ep, reminiscent of fading laughter, reached her ears, chilling her heart. It was a reminder of the childhood she had long abandoned, filled with shadows and scorn, the voices of childhood friends now ghosts she could never reclaim. "Why do you linger here?" came a voice, sharp and unsettling, slicing through her reverie. Ysolde turned, startled, and found herself facing Phaedra Zaleth, the formidable figure cloaked in dark green military garb, her piercing icy blue eyes gleaming with an unsettling satisfaction. "The cliffs are your sanctuary. They remember your sins, Ysolde. You can't rewrite the past with mere intentions." Phaedra stepped closer, the crunch of gravel beneath her boots breaking the eerie stillness, each step like a taunting drumbeat echoing Ysolde's regret. "I don't seek to rewrite anything," Ysolde shot back, her voice a whisper yet resolute, a flicker of defiance igniting within her. "I meant to confront the truth, not hide from it." The swirling fog thickened down them, tendrils wrapping like familiar chains, that if the cliffs themselves were eager to watch the confrontation unfold. She took a step forward, the urge to flee battling with her determination to stand firm against Phaedra intimidation. Phaedra chuckled softly, a dark melody that danced on the air. "Ah, but confronting truth can be a perilous endeavor. You think you know pain, Ysolde? These cliffs are filled with memories far darker than your own, and I have mastered them." Her words were a venomous caress, pushing against Ysolde's resolve. For a brief moment, the mist lifted, revealing jagged edges where shadows clung like secrets, and Ysolde felt the weight of her purse crashing around her, like the relentless waves against the cliffs below. "You were always meant to be forgotten," Phaedra taunted, her presence looming, a storm gathering strength. Ysolde's heart raced, but she felt the fire kindling within her, a fusion of anger and sorrow that steadied her resolve. Clenching her fists, Ysolde took a deep breath, the salty tang of the ocean mingling with the dampness of the fog, grounding her. With each pulse of her heart, the whispers grew louder, memories clawing at her mind as she faced the woman before her. "No, Phaedra, I refuse to be a shadow of my past. I will not be forgotten." The cliffs rumbled in response, as if the spirits themselves were awakening at her declaration. Ysolde's determination surged. She felt the pull of the mist, urging her to confront the spirits trapped between memories and reality, to embrace the past instead of fleeing from it. And as she stood against Phaedra's icy menace, she realized the battle for peace was only just beginning. As the fog swirled ominously around them, Ysolde's heart pounded like an ancient war drum, each beat a reminder of the stakes at hand. She glanced back at the cliffs, sensing the whispers whistle louder, urging her to listen. To finally acknowledge the shadows of her past. Phaedra's laughter faded into the mist, a chilling reminder that darkness was never far away. Ysolde tightened her grip on the tattered cloak around her shoulders, a symbol of her vulnerability and her strength. The cliffs loomed larger, a testament to the battles fought and those yet to come. With renewed resolve, she stepped forward into the fog, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, the echoes of the past guiding her path toward redemption. The mists of sable cliffs enveloped the world in a shroud of twilight, the jagged silhouettes barely visible against the indigo sky. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the precipice, her silver hair shimmering like moonlight amidst the creeping fog. The air was thick with moisture, clinging to her flowing dark robes and making the faint silver embroidery glisten with each gust of wind. Shadows danced along the cliff faces, whispering secrets of the past while the weight of unshed tears pressed against her chest. As the night deepened, she inhaled deeply, her pulse quickening in unison to the haunting symphony that began to unfold. Distant screams mingled with frantic digging and a melodic, sorrowful singing that pierced the otherwise oppressive silence. Ysolde, wait, Kaelith's Sablethorn voice cut through the tension, their green eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. They stepped close, their athletic form cloaked in shadows, each intricate tattoo on their arms telling stories of guardianship and dread. You don't need to do this alone. The concern in their voice vibrated like a plucked string, harmonizing with the eerie sounds reverberating from the depths of the cliffs. Yet, an electric thrill danced along Ysolde's spine, entwined itself with the fear that gripped her heart. The call of the unknown was almost intoxicating, urging her to step forward, to confront the echoes that threatened to consume her past. But what if we uncover something that shatters everything we believe? Ysolde replied, her voice barely above a whisper, if uttering the words too loudly would awaken the spirits held captive within the rocky embrace of the cliffs. The mist thickened, swirling around her like a living entity, while the distant wails seemed to add her own internal struggle, fear, and curiosity battling for dominance. She hesitated, caught between the urge to unravel the mysteries of her history and the instinct to retreat into the safety of the shadows. Kaelith hand brushed her shoulder, a grounding presence that anchored her wavering resolve. As the next haunting note reverberated through the mist, an unearthly chill crept along her spine. Ysolde took a deep, shuddering breath and stepped forward, the darkness beckoning her deeper into its embrace. We'll face it again, she declared, her voice steadier than her racing heart. With each cautious step, the echoes intensified, intertwining with her memories like vines reclaiming a forgotten path. But the truth, buried within the cliffs, awaited her, holding the power to reshape her destiny. Would she find redemption, or would the secrets of the past drag her deeper into despair? The answer lay just beyond the mist, shrouded in darkness and the haunting melody of the cliffs. The mists of sable cliffs loomed like sentinels over the valley, their jagged edges cutting into the low-hanging clouds, where shadows danced amidst the swirling fog. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the threshold, her slender form wrapped in flowing dark robes that whispered against her skin with the breath of the wind. The air was thick, laden with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone, wrapping round her like a shroud. Inside, her heart raced, each pulse echoing the haunting whispers that beckoned her deeper into the abyss. She felt the weight of her past pressing against her, as if the cliffs themselves were hungry to expose the truths she had long buried beneath layers of regret and shame. With each cautious step, Ysolde felt the ground shift beneath her boots, as if the very cliffs were alive, breathing in sync with her internal struggle. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony that surged through her veins, threading memories of laughter and sorrow. She pressed her fingers to the cool, rough surface of a nearby rock, grounding herself before she spoke. "Why do you haunt me?" Her voice trembled, swallowed by the mist. For a moment, silence reigned, and the only sound was the soft rustle of her tattered cloak brushing against the stones. Then the air shimmered with voices, a murmured symphony of the past. Ysolde could almost discern the words, tangled with her own guilt and desires. "You cannot escape us, Ysolde," a voice whispered, echoing yet a ghost from the depths of her memory. Each syllable struck her like a physical blow, and she staggered dead, a faint glimmer of the glowing vine on her wrist illuminating the darkness. With a deep breath, she steadied herself, determination hardening her features. "I am not afraid of you anymore." The mist coiled around her, thickened by her resolve. She pushed forward, each step a declaration of her intent to confront the shadows within. Memories swirled vividly, laughter shared with friends now lost, the bitter taste of betrayal when she turned her back on those she loved. Breathing in the cool, damp air, she felt the tears prick at her eyes. "I was foolish, blinded by my ambition," she admitted, the words falling from her lips like stones dropped into the stillness. "But I will not let you imprison me any longer." As Ysolde ventured deeper into the unknown, the cliffs seemed to pulse with a heartbeat, resonating with her own. Shadows flickered, revealing glimpses of her past, the faces of those she had hurt, the laughter that had turned to screams. With each heartbeat, the whispers intensified, urging her to remember, to acknowledge the pain she had caused. With fierce resolve she stepped forward, ready to confront the abyss of her history, ready to unearth the secrets that had long shackled her spirit. The darkness enveloped her as she crossed a threshold into a cavern, the echoes of her past swirling in every corner. The air grew cooler, charged with an electric tension that prickled her skin. A red flickering light caught her eye, a shimmering pool, reflecting the distorted images of her regrets. Ysolde paused, her heart thudding in her chest. That was it. Here lay her reckoning, the path to redemption that could either free her soul or plunge her deeper into despair. With a deep breath, she took a step, ready to face the haunting melodies of the cliffs and the dark truths waiting to be unveiled. The dimly lit office of the town hall exuded an atmosphere steeped in neglect, a shrine to bureaucratic decay. Stacks of yellow-ed papers leaned precariously against one another, atop a desk that seemed to groan under the weight of forgotten secrets. The musty scent of dust mingled with the faint, acrid odor of spilled ink, creating a tapestry of sensory disarray. Ysolde Rivenhart paused at the threshold, her long, wavy silver hair catching the slivers of light filtering through grimy windows, casting ghostly reflections. Clenching her fists, she shut her eyes, drawing strength from the echoes of the cliffs that whispered her name, urging her forward into the lair of Phaedra, the official whose very presence disrupted the fragile balance of truth she sought. Phaedra lounged in her chair, a pet of smug indifference, her piercing blue eyes assessing Ysolde with a calculating glint. "Ah, the haunted one graces me with her presence," she drawled, her voice smooth as silk but laced with an undercurrent of mockery. She gestured to a pile of disheveled documents.
"Why don't you take a seat?"
"Or do you prefer the dramatic entrance?" The casual disdain in her tone sent a spark of fury through Ysolde, who took a tentative step forward, the weight of her past swirling o'er her like the mists outside.
"This isn't a game, Phaedra."
"The cliffs are suffering, and you can't dismiss the voices calling out from them via folklore." Phaedra's laughter filled the air, sharp and unnerving, echoing off the paper-strewn walls. "Emoslo? Oh, Ysolde, you sweet summer child. Those sounds you hear are just the wind playing tricks, or perhaps the townsfolk imaginations running wild. It suits me well to keep them afraid, keeps them in line. Why would I disturb that? Ysolde, heart raced as she crossed the room, the floorboards creaking beneath her steady resolve. She could feel the pulse of the cliffs in her veins, a reminder of what she had abandoned in pursuit of redemption. Because the spirits are restless. They seek justice, and your silencing of them is a sin that won't go unpunished. Phaedra leaned back, her fingers drumming lightly against her chin, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. What will you do about it, dear demon? Gather your ghostly friends for a haunting? Or oh, you think your silver-haired pretty robes will frighten me? You're a relic of a bygone era, Ysolde. Your power is waning. Ysolde steeled herself against the tide of Phaedra words, recalling the warmth of the sun on her skin, the rush of the wind through the cliffs, the things she had once taken for granted. I may be a relic, but even the past has teeth. I will unearth the truths you bury and shine a light on your darkness. The cliffs will no longer be your playground for greed. As her declaration hung in the air, a tense silence enveloped the room, and Ysolde felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Phaedra's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing, the air crackling with unspoken threats. Ysolde turned on her heel, her heart pound with a mixture of fear and determination, the ghosts of the cliffs whispering words of encouragement. She stepped back into the corridor, ready to confront the shadows of her past, fueled by the urgency of her mission. The time for confrontation had come. She would be silenced again. The mists of Sable Cliffs loomed like a shrouded titan, their jagged edges breaking the pale sky, where the sun struggled to pierce the thick fog that clung desperately to the rugged terrain. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the precipice, her silver hair swirling around her as wisps of smoke, the damp chill of the air embedding itself in her skin. The cliffs whispered secrets, echoes of a long-lost past that curled her, urging her forward into the labyrinth of stone and shadow. With each step on the treacherous path, the damp earth and sharp rock scraped against her boots, a reminder of the danger lurking beneath the surface, mirroring her own tumultuous quest for truth amidst the ghosts that haunted her. Clutching her cloak tighter around her slender frame, Ysolde navigated the narrow ledges, her heart pound a fervent rhythm against the silence. She spotted a broken branch jutting out from the underbrush, its splintered end appeared fresh, a recent disturbance in the otherwise untouched wilderness. "What are you hiding?" she murmured, as if the cliffs could answer her. Her voice was swallowed by the mist, leaving only the distant echoes of haunting laughter to fill the void, amplifying the isolation that wrapped around her like a shroud. Each clue she uncovered felt like a puzzle piece that refused to fit, a haunting reflection of the chaos in her own heart. Ysolde crouched beside the markings etched into the rock, their jagged lines almost rhythmic, as if a restless spirit had danced across the surface. She traced the cool stone with her fingertips, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her. "This has to mean something," she whispered, frustration bubbling in her chest. Just then, a gust of wind swept through, carrying the faint scent of something acrid. She stood abruptly, scanning the horizon as unease settled in her gut. These clues felt like Kate, luring her deeper into the abyss of her own making. As shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, teasing her resolve. With each false lead, her determination morphed into something sharper, a blade honed by desperation and anger. She stepped away from the rocks, inhaling the damp air, tinged with the metallic scent of the past. "You think I'd be misled?" she called defiantly into the mist, her voice a blend of challenge and desperation. But the cliffs remained silent, their secrets cloaked in layers of fog, leaving her alone with the shadows that danced just out of reach. The chaos within her seemed to resonate with the world around her, each an answered question tightening the grip on her heart. As the fog thickened, wrapping round her like a suffocating blanket, Ysolde's resolve hardened. She could not allow the cliffs to keep their secrets any longer. The shadows that flickered at the edges of her vision were not merely figments of her imagination, but warnings. Each moment spent in this ghostly realm was a step toward understanding her own past, tangled as it was with the whispers of the land. No more dead ends, she vowed, her voice a fierce promise against the encroaching silence. With the final glance at the craggy landscape, she pressed forward, the weight of her purpose igniting a flicker of hope amidst the despair that had clung to her for too long. The air within the hidden cave was thick with the dampness that clung to Ysolde Rivenhart's skin like an unwelcome embrace. Shadows danced along the jagged walls, flickering at the edges of her vision as if the cave itself was alive, whispering secrets in the language of the ancients. The faint glow of the relic pulsated rhythmically, casting an ethereal light that illuminated the intricate carvings of forgotten stories etched into the stone. Heart racing, she stepped closer, her silver hair catching the light, revealing the faint glow of her wrist mark. This pace, shrouded in mystery, resonated deep within her, sparking memories of a past she had tried to escape. A past intertwined with the very essence of these cliffs. A resolve ignited within her, she would uncover the truth tonight, no matter the cost. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Ysolde whispered, reaching out to touch the relic. The moment her fingertips brushed its surface, a surge of energy coursed through her, igniting a vivid memory, a flash of her former life before the shame had driven her to hide. Suddenly, the echoes of the cliffs swelled, reverberating through the cave, harmonizing with the relic rhythm. It was as if the land itself was responding to her presence, revealing its hidden truths. Just as she began piecing together the significance of the pulsing artifact, a rustle broke the stillness, sending a chill down her spine. "I wouldn't get too comfortable if I were you," came a voice, dripping with venom. Phaedra Zaleth emerged from the shadows, flanked by two hulking henchmen, their silhouettes imposing against the caved aglow. "You see, you've stumbled into something that's far beyond your understanding, Ysolde. And you're not leaving heed with that relic." Her icy blue eyes sparkled with malicious glee, the scar on her cheek catching the light. She stepped forward, exuding authority with every calculated movement. Ysolde's heart raced, adrenaline flooding her veins. She tightened her grip on the relic, feeling its warmth seep into her skin.
"I won't let you take it."
"This belongs to the cliffs. Not to you." Her voice trembled, but there was a fire behind it. Phaedra merely laughed, motioning for her henchmen to advance, their weapons glinting menacingly. Ysolde's mind raced as she glanced for an escape, the sense of impending doom tightening around her throat like a noose. With this swift motion she turned, dashing deeper into the cave darkness, her heart pounded in her ears as she fled, the relic slipping from her fingers, falling with a dull thud into the shadows below. As she stumbled into the suffocating darkness, breathless and shaken, regret clawed at her insides. The pulsing light of the relic faded behind her, swallowed by the obsidian depths of the cave, as she raced away from Phaedra's mocking laughter. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, a relentless reminder of her failure yet spurring her on. She could not let fear dictate her choices. The whispers of the cliffs still resonated, intensifying with each step she took, urging her to delve deeper into the darkness, not just of the cave, but of the truths hidden within herself. What awaited her beyond the shadows? Ysolde knew she had only just begun to unravel the web of her past. The mists of sable cliffs coiled Ysolde Rivenhart Eichel lover embrace, thick and damp veiling the jagged edges of the rock face that loomed above. Each breath tasted of earth and sorrow, the air heavy with whispers, that echoed the weight of her past. Crouched beneath the sheer cliffs, she shivered against the chill that seeped into her bones, her tattered cloak fluttering like the wings of a trapped bird. The sun had long surrendered its warmth, leaving only the muted gray of twilight. And in that twilight, Ysolde felt the shadows stir, drawing her deeper into the mists of her own memories. This secluded spot, where the veil between past and present seemed to dissolve, had become her sanctuary, yet also her prison. As the memories surged within her, Ysolde fanned pressed into the cold, damp earth, the rough texture grounding her as visions flickered before her eyes. Faces emerged, twisted in pain, friends she had betrayed, innocence lost in the wake of her choices. "No more," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the sigh of the wind, but the mist only thickened, soaking her words in despair. A tremor coursed through her as she recalled the flames of destruction she had once unleashed, a fire born of rage and fear. "Will I find peace?" The question echoed in the silence, the weight of her own heart a heavy stone lodged in her throat. With a sudden gasp, Ysolde fell to her knees, the cold ground biting into her skin. The mist curled tighter around her, and for a moment she thought it might swallow her whole. But then, from the depths of her sorrow, a flicker of determination ignited. "I have to face them," she murmured, the words spilling forth as if they had been waiting to emerge. Each name, each forgotten plea, fueled her resolve, illuminating the path toward redemption that lay shrouded ahead. She could almost hear the soft laughter of the spirits, coaxing her to confront the shadows that haunted her. The mists began to swirl, shifting in response to her thoughts, revealing the cragged cliffs that had once felt like a refuge. Ysolde's heart raced as her past and future converged in that solitary moment, and a sense of urgency pulsed through her veins. No longer could she hide beneath the weight of regret that truth loomed, waiting to be unearthed earth. With a final, shuddering breath, she rose to her feet, the moisture of the ground soaking into her robes. The cliff edge now felt like the threshold of change, and as she stepped forward, the fog began to recede, leaving behind an awakening clarity that promised both hope and peril. The town square thrummed with life, the vibrant sounds of vendors hawking their wares, mingling with the laughter of children chasing one another between the stalls. Sunlight filtered through the fluttering banners, casting shifting patterns upon the cobblestones, and the air was rich with the scent of baked bread and fresh herbs. At the far end, beneath the watchful gaze of a carved stone statue of an ancient hero, Ysolde Rivenhart stood poised, her silver hair catching the light like threads of moonlight. Clad in flowing dark robes that whispered of forgotten tales, she felt the pulse of the crowd thrumming in her veins, a mix of anticipation and dread. Today, the weight of her past pressed against her shoulders, but she was resolved, her heart a steady drum of determination as she prepared to confront the shadow lurking in plain sight. Phaedra Zaleth, the corrupt official whose grip on the town was as suffocating as the mist that clung to the cliffs. Ysolde stepped forward, her voice steady yet charged with an undercurrent of simmering fury.
Phaedra,
"Your reign of deceit ends today. The secrets of the cliffs are laid bare, and the people deserve to know the truth of your dealings." The murmur of the crowd shifted, tension crackling like dry leaf underfoot, eyes turned towards the imposing figure of Phaedra, who stood with an unyielding expression, her icy blue eyes narrowing dangerously. Phaedra's lips curled into a smirk, a manipulative shield against the onslaught. "You think you can intimidate me with your ghost stories? Bitcho. I've built this town on the fears of its people, and they trust me to protect them from the very shadows you claim to know so well. But trust say, your past will haunt you long bone you can unsettle my grip p." Her fingers danced over the rings on her hands, each a token of the secrets she meticulously guarded, if channeling their power and influence.
People are not your pawns, Phaedra.
They deserve to live without fear of your lies. Ysolde pressed on, her heart racing as she felt the crowd unease shift into a burgeoning support. Faces in the throng turned from apprehension to a glimmer of hope, and she welcomed their silent strength, her resolve intensifying. With each word she spoke, her past, once a shackle, transformed into a rallying cry. You can't hide behind your facade forever. How quaint the past comes back to haunt us, doesn't it? Phaedra's voice dripped with sarcasm as she stepped closer, closing the space between them, eyes glinting with menace. But remember, Ysolde, I wield more than just secrets. I have power, and I know how to use it to silence those who dare to challenge me. The tension between them thickened, the air crackling with unspoken threats. The crowd held its collective breath, caught in the storm of their confrontation. As the echoes of Phaedra's threats linger in the air, Ysolde stood her ground, the weight of her past fueling a newfound fire within her. She would back down. The townsfolk, their eyes wide with the fear and defiance, began to chant her name, a sound of the first rays of dawn breaking through the night. In this moment, she knew she had not just come to confront a corrupt official, she had ignited a movement. But even as hope surged, she felt the shadows of her past stirring, ready to unveil secrets that could shatter the fragile alliance she had built. The battle for the truth had only just begun. The mists of sable cliffs loomed like ancient sentinels against the fading sun, their jagged forms wreathed in swirling fog that whispered secrets of the past. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the precipice, the cool breeze tousling her long silver hair, which shimmered like the last rays of daylight. Shadows danced today in her, echoing the restless spirits trapped within the cliffs, their mournful sounds resonating in her chest. With her eyes closed, she let the haunting symphony wash over her, reliving the mistakes that had brought her here, to that moment where the weight of her purse pressed down like a shroud. The air was thick, almost tangible with the tension of the approaching twilight, and her heart raced with the urgency of a dawning resolve as she sought strength from the very stones that bore witness to her sins. The mist curled at her feet, cool and damp as if the cliffs themselves were reaching out to her. A voice called softly, slicing through the oppressive silence. The figure of Phaedra Zaleth emerged from the fog, her piercing icy blue eyes locking onto Ysolde with an intensity that made the air crackle. You've come to confront your demons, haven't you? Ysolde opened her eyes, startled yet oddly comforted by Phaedra's presence. The mentor-tailored uniform, dark green with gold accents, blended seamlessly into the surrounding shadows. But the scar across her cheek glinted ominously.
I don't need your reminders of my failures, Phaedra.
I know what I must do, Ysolde replied, her voice steady, though her fists clenched at her sides. The very air vibrated with the spirit's restless energy, mirroring the turmoil within her. Phaedra stepped closer, her demeanor unfaltering. And what of the past you carry, Ysolde? Redemption requires more than mere intention. You must embrace every facet of yourself, especially the darkness. There was an unsettling weight to her words, as if they too were steeped in a history neither could ignore. Ysolde felt the shadows tighten around her, but a flicker of defiance ignited in her war.
I will face her.
I will face Phaedra's lies and the ghosts of my past, even if it means confronting the truth of who I was. The cliffs seemed to pulse with her resolve, the haunting sounds rising in a crescendo as if urging her on. Phaedra nodded, a glimmer of pride crossing her features. Then let the mists guide you.
They know your heart better than you do, my child.
But tread carefully. Power corrupts those who wield it without understanding. Ysolde inhaled sharply, the scent of damp earth mingling with her racing thoughts, and as the last light of day slipped beneath the horizon, she took a step forward, her spirit ignited with newfound determination. The darkness enveloped her like an old cloak, familiar yet suffocating, but Ysolde pushed back against its weight. As she stood at the edge, the distant echoes of the cliffs beckoned her deeper, urging her to dive into the heart of her fears. The time had come to confront Phaedra not just as a formidable adversary, but as a mirror reflecting the shadows she had long tried to evade. Ysolde steeled herself, feeling the spirits surge around her, a cacophony of voices rising in a final haunting call to arms. Whatever lay ahead, the battle was no longer just against a corrupt official. It was against the very essence of her identity, and she would falter. The air in the ruined hall was heavy with the scent of damp stone and the lingering echoes of whispered secrets. Shafts of moonlight pierced the dilapidated roof, illuminating dust motes that danced lazily in the stillness. Jagged shards of fallen masonry lay scattered like forgotten fragments of a past long obscured by corruption. At the far end of the hall, Ysolde Rivenhart stood poised, her slender frame draped in flowing dark robes, the silver embroidery glimmering like starlight against the gloom. The faint glow of the vine seed mark on her wrist pulsed in rhythm with her racing heart, each beat a reminder of the spirits urging her forward. Before her, Phaedra Zaleth leaned against a crumbling pillar, a smirk playing on her lips, her icy blue eyes glinting with predatory amusement, a serpent coiled in the underbrush, ready to strike. Ysolde inhaled deeply, the taste of ancient stone and despair filling her lungs.
You've twisted this place into a den of lies, Phaedra.
The spirits won't be silenced forever. Her voice, steady despite the storm brewing within, cracked like thunder in the oppressive silence. Phaedra's laughter echoed sharp and mocking as she stepped forward, her military uniform rustling like a predator hide. Ah, but they are mine to command, dear demon. All your pretty words and noble intentions won't save you now. It's too late for redemption, she purred, her fingers glinting with the weight of her rings, each a token of her treachery, a cruel reminder of her grip on power. Ysolde clenched her fists, feeling the spirits of the cliffs swirl around her, embracing her with whispers of strength. No, it's not too late. You've built your empire on the suffering of others, and I will not let it stand any longer. Her voice rose, a rallying cry against the decay that permeated the hall, the ghostly wails crescendoing in run. Phaedra's smile faltered, eyes narrowing as the atmosphere shifted. The very stones seemed to tremble with anticipation, as if the hall itself recognized the threat she posed, awakening from its slumber to join the fray. You think your bravado is scare me? Phaedra snapped, the veneer of confidence cracking under the weight of Ysolde's resolve. She lunged forward, her movements precise and calculated, aiming to strike at Ysolde's heart, but the demon was ready. With a swift sidestep, Ysolde evaded the blow, her cloak billowing behind her like a shadow taking flight. The air crackled with tension as the two whims circled each other, predators in a deadly dance, each seeking an opening to exploit.
You can't hide from your past, Phaedra.
It written in your scars and the trembling of your voice. You're already losing. Ysolde's words landed the arrows piercing through the facade that Phaedra wore like armor, the truth of her corruption exposed before the spirits who bore witness to the confrontation. Phaedra's composure faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features, momentarily revealing the vulnerability she fought to conceal. You think you can change anything? You're just as lost as the rest of them, haunted by your failures, she hissed, desperation creeping into her tone. The hall echoed with their anger, reverberating through the stones, awakening the spirits within the walls. Empowered by the gathering voices of the cliffs, Ysolde felt the tide shift.
I embrace my truth, Phaedra.
I will tear down your walls, brick by brick, until nothing remains of your tyranny. With the final surge of strength, Ysolde pressed forward, the spirits roaring behind her like a tempest unleashed. The ground beneath them trembled, as the hall itself seemed to respond to her declaration. The dust swirling up like a storm, summoned from the depths of time. Phaedra staggered back, her bravado waning, the weight of her secrets pressing down on her as if the very stones of the hall conspired against her. Ysolde's heart swelled with the power of the cliffs, a promise of liberation echoing in her chest. "This ends now, Phaedra," she shouted, ready to unleash the storm of truth that would shatter the chains, seam the spirits, and her own dark past. And the clash between past and present loomed closer. The outcome teetered on the edge. The fate of the hall hung in the balance, poised for a reckoning. The mists of sable cliffs rose like the fangs of a slumbering beast, shadows dancing along the jagged rock faces, while the air hummed with the promise of transformation. Ysolde Rivenhart stood at the precipice, her long, wavy silver hair stirring in the gentle wind, shimmering like on water. The damp scent of earth and moss clung to her cloak, a tattered remnant of her past, whispering stories of loss and redemption. In the distance, the echoes of the restless spirits intertwined with the soft rustle of leaves, forming a haunting symphony that soothed and unsettled her. Here, surrounded by the ghostly embrace of mist, Ysolde felt a fragile peace beginning to unfurl within her, at the first petals of dawn breaking through night grip. Ysolde stepped close to the edge, her heart drumming a familiar rhythm against her ribs. She closed her eyes, inhaling the cool air, letting the chilling embrace of the cliffs seep into her bones. "What are you hiding from?" she whispered into the silence, her voice barely breaking the spell of stillness. The cliffs had been her refuge and her prison, each crevice steeped in memories of fear and regret. But as the vibrant life returned to the cliffs, she felt the weight of her choices shifting, unearthing the possibility of forgiveness, both for herself and for those she had wronged. "I am not the monster I once was," she murmured, as if the words could summon the strength she so desperately sought. As she opened her eyes, Ysolde saw the shadows flicker, the air alive with the whispers of the spirits she had fled from for so long. The once dead echoes now sounded like a call to arms, inviting her to confront her fears rather than flee. "I have come to reclaim what was lost," she declared, her voice steadier now, resonating against the rock walls like a battle cry. The mist thickened, curling wine her like a protective shroud as the cliffs responded, the haunting sounds shifting into a more harmonious melody. Ysolde could feel the spirits gathering, their presence no longer a source of dread, but a symphony celebrating her acceptance. "Join me, and let us heal together," she cried, her heart racing with newfound vigor. As the final words slipped from her lips, the air shimmered, a wave of energy pulsating through the rocky expanse. The cliffs, once suffocated by silence, erupted with life. Birds sang, water trickled from unseen sources, and the winds carried the laughter of long-lost souls. Ysolde sank to her knees, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment. Tears streamed down her face, a release of the sorrow she had held for centuries. The cliffs were no longer a tomb, they were a sanctuary. And in embracing her past she found herself reborn amidst the vibrant chaos of vice. The symphony of sounds enveloped her like a warm embrace, settling into her core as echoes of joy danced in the air. For the first time, Ysolde felt tethered to the world, to this place that had witnessed her darkest moments. She rose slowly, heart pounded with purpose, knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey not just to restore harmony to the cliffs, but to mend her own fractured spirit. The path ahead remained shrouded in mist, but with each step forward, she carried the promise of acceptance and hope. With her heart alight and the cliffs thrumming underfoot, Ysolde took a deep breath, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The whispers of the past no longer haunted her. They inspired her. She straightened her shoulders, eyes sparkling with determination, as she gazed into the heart of the mist. This is just the start, she thought, the memories of her former self fading like the morning fog. Ahead of her stretched the labyrinthine paths of the cliffs, each one a promise of discovery and confrontation. With the final glance at the vibrant night awakening around her, Ysolde stepped forward, the weight of the past lifting with every stride, and the sound of her resolve resonating like a melody in the winds.